What's up, everybody? In this video, I'm speaking with Jarlo Ilano, one of the founders at GMB Fitness and a physical therapist, about why the question, how do I prevent injury while training for an ultramarathon, is in fact the wrong question to be asking, and what we need to be thinking about instead to do just that.
I know one of the questions you want to ask, like, how can I injure my prove myself for a 100-mile race? And you can't. You absolutely can't. It's like, even the question of how do I do that is the wrong question. So I went to school in the mid 90s, and it was just coming up. You have pain because you have this injury, and it's like 1-to-1, right? That's very much entrenched, right? You need to fix this to do this, and then you'll get out of pain. And that's very much not the case. That's the big thing about pain science in the last, 20 years or so. The trouble with it is that it's gone the other way of the pendulum. We're like, well, pain is just this thing. All you have to do is sort of keep doing what you're doing and, get out of it. And a lot of people kind of, if they're approached in that way, they think, oh, you're telling me that's just in my head. You're telling me I can just do whatever and nothing I do is going to help. And that's wrong too. There are biomechanical aspects to the pain response and injury. Like, for example, running. You can't tell me that training to run marathons and ultras, that little injuries and all of that don't matter. They fully do. And it's a capacity thing. So I think of it more as capacity for load, capacity for ongoing load. And if you think about it that way more than like injury and healing and all of that, I think it clears up a lot of the mystery of pain. How do I develop the capacity to do a thing and not just complete it, but do it but do it in a way where you're not wrecked for a few months after, right? Because you can do an ultra right now. You know what I mean? But then how's the rest of your January and February going to be? You're gonna fuck yourself up, right? So there's so many variables there. Even to the thing of like if you wear the wrong pair of socks, that shit adds up. Okay, how are my feet gonna handle this? Or how's my big toe gonna handle this? If your feet are soft, you're not gonna make it through an ultra, or you're not even gonna make it through a half marathon. All of those things are gonna add up over the miles. What if you get your fueling wrong? Right, that's another thing too. Like people kind of worry on my knees and my feet, my heels, but unless you get your fueling, your hydration, all that kind of stuff, that all adds up. So ultras are nuts. They're nuts. But people do it all the time. So how long does it take to develop the calluses? And it's funny, right? Because that's another great analogy to, say, lifting weights or endurance training is, can you see yourself developing the callus day to day? You can't see it day to day, and it's almost like it just happens. But of course, it doesn't just happen, right? So that's what I mean by capacities is like you can figure out all the correct exercises you need. You can figure out all of the kind of loads that are going to be good for you, but you really won't know until 2 months, 3 months later. That's another thing too, is I think there's a lot of nuance to a lot of this, is where people either think you can't do it at all, or they think, oh, I can just do it. It's like we can really train for anything. We really can. But a lot of it is figuring out your own personal, individual needs for it. And a lot of it is experimentation and trial and error and, listening to the right people.
This kind of relates, I guess, even to GMB. I think what I appreciated always about you guys was it was always like, it could be this or it could be this. Like it's a very, whenever anyone is making like really black and white recommendations, about questions like this. I think it's kind of problematic. I mean, there's these general training principles of like you should be increasing your mileage time 5 to 10% a week, or like even strength training principles. But all of this other stuff like gait analysis and food and everything, it's like it could be that or it could be this. Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is why I always kind of defer to people who have more experience in a certain thing. Because say, what you said about general principles, it's sort of like the 80-20 thing.
Mm.
If you strength train, right, 30, 45 minutes session 2 times a week, if you do your cardio like 30, 45 minutes 2 to 3 times a week, that is 80%. You're going to be great. But once you start thinking of, oh, maybe I want to do a tournament, right? Maybe I want to do an ultra. Maybe I want to do a powerlifting competition. Then that last 20% is going to require some really good knowledge. Yeah, the people that make black and white blanket statements, usually they're not the ones that have done stuff, which is fine. I'm not saying everyone has to do this stuff, but I think you have to recognize what you know and what you've done, and recognize that, and recognize that there's probably some other stuff out here that you just don't know about. But luckily, I've at least tried to do a lot of stuff.
Mm.
And I've talked and learned from a lot of people who have done a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah. I
But
mean, I think on that, so we're kind of coming to the end, but I think as a good last bit maybe is like, what have you seen that people have done wrong with something like this?
people doing too much too soon,
Mm.
right? Or thinking that what they've done in the past, that all they have to do is maybe just a little bit more, right? And they haven't gone into what we just said is like sometimes that last 20% requires some really significant changes. But I think in general, it's people make mistakes trying to generalize either their favorite way of doing things, or they're trying to generalize, this thing that they're really attached to their particular coach or their particular method, and they don't look objectively at what people are doing right now or have done. Be really careful about the sources and information that you're listening to. Who you choose as a coach, see what they've done for themselves and with their clients, and see if it's real, if it's realistic, and also if it fits you. Because the best kind of stuff out there that, it might be exactly perfect. And you're like, yeah, I got to do it this way. But if it doesn't fit you, your time, your energy, your temperament, then it's not going to work, especially for uh, these type of goals like ultras and crazy stuff. Man, if you're going to do it and do it in a way where you're not just going to kill yourself, then you really got to choose your sources well.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
And a lot of it, to me, all of this stuff is learning about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, getting stronger, getting more enduring, learning a skill. To me, every session is learning more about how you react to it, right? Learning what things that you need. And it takes time. There is no like 6 week, right, ultra program,
No.
right? There is no
No.
well, even beyond that, there's no six
Yeah.
week, body transformation thing.
No. Yeah.
No, it's accumulation of this week, next week, 3 weeks. Like, man, I was on the rower the other day, and it was those VO2 intervals, and man, I didn't want to do it. I was already tired. I had rolled earlier in the day, right? It's right before dinner. I was like, I gotta do this. And I remember going, okay. And I was talking to myself after each one. I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because that thing wasn't gonna make or break me, but it was, I gotta do those, right, over the months ahead to get where I want to go. right? So that's one thing too, is like I don't say make myself do it, but I gotta, I gotta get on there, right? It's the same thing with any goal you have. It's like sometimes you just gotta go in. Like I would have stopped myself if it was hurting, pain, blah blah
Hmm.
blah, right? But if it was more like, right? It was more that I
Yeah.
was scared of how I was gonna feel at the end because it just fucking sucked, right? Anytime you're hitting max heart rate, you just
I think it is that. Like I think that's I mean ultimately this stuff is building, it sounds corny, but it is building character
yeah,
because
absolutely.
you can use that as proof. You're proving to yourself every time that you can do
Yeah,
a difficult
absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
Right? Close your eyes and like don't look at your watch and then it's only 30 seconds later kind of thing, right?
Yeah, dude. Something. I mean something. I just
Right.
it's gonna be such a mental thing, but I'm
No,
just
but
trying
it's
to take
awesome.
it.
I'm all
Yeah.
for it. Just,
Yeah.
you know, find your ways to really be patient with yourself and do the things you need to do. So,
Yeah.
well, thanks a lot. That was great.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. You're gonna get my sunburned nose. Oh yeah. Through the lens of injury prevention, I might be thinking about my actual training program. I might be thinking about recovery. I might be thinking about strength maintenance or accessory exercises. And those aren't bad things to be thinking about. That's all part of this how do I build capacity equation. But it also prompted me to be thinking about what about my nutrition? That's really important and directly relates to how my body is going to feel during this race. I might be able to avoid injury over the 24 hours. Fingers crossed, I hope so. But if I'm not properly fueled, oh, that could be a problem. Or what about my feet? I don't know what the exact statistic is, but from what I've read, foot problems like blisters, mostly blisters, seem to be taking people out of races way more than any kind of like, I pulled a muscle. So making sure that I'm taking care of my feet is really important. For me, I'm really good at the doing. I'm really good at, oh, okay, I can follow this training program. What I'm not so good at is the not doing, specifically sleeping enough or making sure that when I'm recovering, I'm actually really recovering. So for me, that's also a part of this equation of building capacity. And then lastly, what kind of mentality does it take to run for 24 hours? TBD. A pretty tough one. So that is something that in this last month I'm going to be really thinking about, and I will report back. But for now, that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to tune in next week to see me get my gait analyzed and pick out some shoes.